Let's get straight on to the Sunday Mirror. We're going to start with Matthew. As Yvette Cooper, the new Foreign Secretary with a defiant promise.
Yeah, and successive Foreign Secretaries, whether Conservative or Labour, have thrown their full weight and backing behind Ukraine, so there's no surprise here. Yvette Cooper, obviously brand new in the job. She's just been over to Ukraine with the Sunday Mirror, and she's saying effectively that Russia is trying to grind down Ukraine, and the British government won't allow that to happen.
So just continuation of our position, right?
Exactly. Reaffirming the position very early on. It obviously comes also as NATO countries are on high alert following Russia's violation of Polish airspace on Wednesday. She said Ukraine's security is our security, which I thought was quite powerful. She warned against letting Putin's aggression go unchecked. And again, I think it was just a prominent move to go there in the first sort of week of becoming the new Foreign Secretary. And actually, she went at the same time as Prince Harry, although they didn't really cross over.
I wondered this because we were reporting it. They weren't together. They
weren't together. I think they might have been on the same overnight train through Poland.
Different compartments, maybe.
Different compartments, possibly. He obviously went with his Invictus Games Foundation and focused on rehabilitation.
Tiny bit more context to what's going on at the moment. Of course, Trump is threatening sanctions, but he's threatened sanctions before. He appears to be all over the place in his strategy. I think it's perfectly reasonable to argue that Putin is running rings around him, sadly, and I take no pleasure in saying that. But Trump has also made it clear that it's up to NATO countries to impose sanctions themselves or to stop buying oil from Russia. And it will surprise some viewers, perhaps, that the EU does still get some of its energy, much less than before 2022, but some of its energy from Russia. And Trump is saying, look, you guys go first, and then I'll follow suit, which you might argue is not really leadership. And the other, I suppose, bit of context, which you've already alluded to, is this very threatening situation. Now, there's been so many big news stories this week, but we cannot ignore the fact that Russian drones entered Polish airspace.
Well, Poland, they entered Romanian airspace.
That's what we're hearing, and those countries obviously part of NATO. And the question has always been, will Putin one day invade a NATO country, which would then trigger other NATO countries, including Britain, to go to the defence of that country. Ukraine, obviously, not a NATO country. So if this is Putin testing the West, which I suspect it is, these are very serious developments.
Yeah, he certainly is testing the West, and there is a strengthening on the NATO eastern flank. I think, actually, the UK is sending some jets as well to support that mission. So it's a crucial time, as it always is, with Russia's continued invasion of Ukraine. Doing something completely different now, India.
Completely different.
You couldn't get anything more different.
No, you couldn't. Sun on Sunday, go through.
Yes, so this comes ahead of Strictly Come Dancing's launch later this month, and this is one of the contestants, Tom Skinner, who's an ex-Apprentice star and a bit of a right-wing activist now. He famously was invited by the Vice President, J.D. Vance, for a barbecue while he was in the Cotswolds, so he made headlines then too. He has now admitted to The Sun on Sunday that he had an affair on his wife weeks before they got married, they got married. I think he's trying to get the skeletons out of the closet before the Strictly run. And it also followed his storming out of the Elstree press conference earlier this week that I was at after he got riled up by something he saw on one of the journalists' phones. So he's had a bit of a controversial start already. So I think he's just trying to get ahead of it before the show starts by admitting having.
He was before.
Yes, I mean, I should probably point out that the woman he had an affair with was asked to comment, and she said it was not a fling. He called it a fling, a 2-week fling. She said it was a relationship in a very stressful time in her life.
Interesting to get the affair in before Strictly even starts.
Yeah.
I've got to say, I've seen this guy in the papers for the past few weeks. I thought Strictly was already on. I mean, I had no idea they hadn't even started yet.
Just the run-up.
The run-up is huge.
Yeah, it's huge.
I'm not sure that being a political commentator qualifies me to talk about people's
But
affairs.
you'll do it anyway.
Well, no, I was going to say, actually, I think people's private lives should be private, and this would not be a front page that I would be behind if I were an editor. More broadly, I think, even though I try not to judge, and I think we should all try not to judge, it's probably better in life not to have an affair.
And on that note, let's move on to this next story. You can all agree with that. This is double-page spread in the Express ahead of the Trump visit. We've been reporting this. I just had a conversation with Professor Dunn about all of this. Matthew, take us through the reporting here.
Well, the substance is that there's going to be a lot of backing, financial backing, investment from the United States. This is a story that is going hand in hand with Donald Trump's imminent second state visit to Britain, unprecedented, offered via Keir Starmer by the King in that now famous or infamous exchange in the Oval Office earlier this year. Obviously, it's good news. And what I think, if we sort of look to the political element of this, what this gives a hint of is that Starmer could use this visit to turn things around, because I think he has been relatively effective on the international stage, and he will be absolutely desperate for more good news stories to emerge with this visit.
And do you think that the signing of deals can be enough to ameliorate the damage that he's facing? I mean, is the business element of this going to be enough to... You're looking at me sceptical.
I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, I think that I'm really excited, actually, for the sort of royal family's diplomatic, soft power, deft touch that's going to come in with this, because we know Trump is a huge fan of the royal family and is very excited.
I asked Professor Dunn this. Do we know what the King thinks of Trump? I mean, we'd never know, would we?
No, famously not. But I'm sure you can sort of have a sort of broad idea.
Yeah.
But he's going to be a charm offensive, as always. And, yeah, it's going to be very important diplomatically. It obviously comes after.
How much will we see them together?
Quite a bit.
Right.
There's a very packed schedule, and the Princess of Wales is also going to be at the forefront of the schedule too, which I think will also be very effective for Trump, because it's sort of this glamorous front, right?
And the King clearly shouldn't be letting us know, and isn't letting us know what he might personally think about Donald Trump, or indeed many other figures on the international stage, because he is the King. But we know, I think, what Keir Starmer must think about Donald Trump, and yet he has, as I say, been pretty effective in holding him close. And it was extraordinary, that meeting in the White House that I alluded to earlier, because Trump was delighted with this invitation, and he and Starmer seemed to get on pretty well. And of course, Trump then gave us lower tariffs than he did the EU at that point. And yet Trump's right-hand man, or one of his right-hand men at the time, was still Elon Musk. And Elon Musk had libelously accused Starmer of being complicit in the rape of Britain, which was this extraordinary juxtaposition. I think it's possible to get on with people one-to-one, at least sufficiently, even if you have contempt for their politics.
I think it's massively important to be able to do that, right? That we should all be able to do that as humans, be able to hold all those things in our heads at once and be complicated individuals, as life is complicated. Let's move on to... Goodness, talking about complications. This is one you picked out, India, isn't it?
Yes. This, of course, follows the assassination of Charlie Kirk this week. Erica Kirk, his widow, has made a searing and emotional address following the assassination. She actually recorded it in the studio that he used to record his podcasts in. And in it, the main point that she drove home was really, obviously through her unimaginable grieving, is really that this is going to continue and amplify Charlie's legacy in growing the conservative youth movement even more, because it's going to be fostered so much more now, and it, in fact, might be even radicalised as well as amplified because of the political violence element. So it was a marked contrast to her previous very rare public appearances, in which she usually just the importance of marriage and religion, which was obviously a big point for both of them. She also called her husband a martyr, which I think is language and sentiment shared by a lot of people in the US at the moment, and indeed internationally. And he's now just this figurehead in the conservative movement and an example of what happens when violence is politicised.
One does wonder how Turning Point USA and UK will do without such a charismatic leader. But we've got 30 seconds for you.
Just very quickly, look, everyone should condemn this horrific killing, whatever their politics. There's absolutely no place for it. And I just worry that this could be a moment when Trump brings his country together. He seems to be doing the opposite, focusing on radical left violence, where we know there's a problem on both sides. And the words that Elon Musk uttered at the Tommy Robinson rally, very concerning indeed.
Okay. India, Matthew, thank you both for that. Enjoy the rest of your Sundays, guys. Thanks for being with us. We'll be back with the day's top stories after this short break.
I'm David Blevins, and I'm Sky's senior Ireland correspondent.